Guys, adding this in the beginning, 30 seconds or less, if you need to refer to the concentric ring reality diagram. Reality in this place stems from your heart-centered bubble. It goes outward through society and culture. The screen is the outer ring, the screen, the not milk, the asshole dark. It tries to reach in to influence your heart-centered reality bubble. And it does that through about a million different ways. If you need to reference it, here it is. Here's the video. Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome back to Midnight Reality. I have another package from Frank and an older one that we didn't get through the last time we did a Frank package. And I'm going to go through a lot of it quickly because I don't want too much of Frank's stuff to pile up, and there's so much to talk about, some of which you'll know. There's no reason for a Pootie Tang Award or anything like that, but he puts it in such a different way. Like so many things that I say in my videos, you already know, but I might put it just a little bit different or just bridge that last little gap of understanding, and that's what many of Frank's packages does for me. It's things that we talk about, but it's like, well, that was really put in a unique and different way. Just kind of bridges the gap for us. Jeff has sent me his new book, and it's just the way he writes certain things and connects certain dots. I'm going to read you some sections of his book very soon. It's so amazing what Jeff has done in this book, but Frank does it in these handwritten packages that he sends to me, and I have so many underlines here. Let's just get right to it. Again, some of you might be like, I know that. What the? This is a Pootie Tang Award. I know that. We know a lot of this, but just the way it's said, and you'll see, it'll lead to all sorts of different things in terms of our conversation. I underline this in one of Frank's letters. Reality can be defined as what two or more beings agree upon. If you remember, which of course you don't from past Frank packages, Frank creates everything. His reality is created 100% in his opinion by Frank. There is nothing out there. The mystery is how his reality, which he creates, would join with my reality, and how there's so many common elements if we were to, say, sit down next to each other and our reality bubbles were to conjoin. But Frank creates everything, of course. In terms of that scale, he is pinned at 10 out of 10. Reality can be defined as what two or more beings agree upon. And I'll continue and add to some things said here, when the reality bubbles are conjoined. He says, I couldn't find any evidence of Mandela effects or fluid reality or any evidence of a false world, he says here, in the physical world that I create when he goes out and takes a walk through the woods or anything in his personal reality bubble. We've talked about this many times. If you look outside your window, that same tree is there. It's not, that reality is not breaking down with the way the news is breaking down, or what Elon Musk says, what sort of toaster is going up to Mars. That's breaking down at that level. What he's saying here is very similar to our concentric rings diagram. The first ring, heart-centered reality bubble. Then as you go outward through society and culture, eventually the outer bubble is the screen, the not milk. That's where it's breaking down. That's where they can't seem to hold it together. That's where it's most fluid at this point, and definitely different in this millennium than in the last century or millennium. So there's no evidence. Frank says, as I take a walk, I can't find any evidence of Mandela effects or a false world in the world I create as my reality bubble walks through the woods. He says, if what I create is orderly and the same as it was yesterday, or the same as it was my entire life, the oak tree out the window is the same as it always was, and you understand what I'm saying, then media, all forms of media in this reality, is the source of all the fake, false reality. Okay, yeah, you're screaming at me, you know that? Well, okay, let's continue. Media is the source of all the fake, false reality, the outer ring in our concentric rings diagram. Reality can be defined as what two or more beings agree upon. And Matt will add, that is exactly what the outer ring of this reality tries to do, like the Terminator 24/7. Tries to get you in your creative reality bubble. We're the reality creators here. It wouldn't exist without us. This whole place wouldn't be here without us. It's constantly getting you to agree to what it wants, to its reality, to its culture, so it can survive and thrive. It has to get our agreement. It cannot find what it needs on its own. So Frank writes, if I agree with school books, for example, which is a form of media, then that will be or can be my reality. Same with all media. If I agree with school books, that will eventually become part of my reality and cement itself into this reality. And no college for me, Frank says. So my reality on, say, electricity or what magnetism is, to Frank, is not similar to what a graduate of electrical engineering, for example, may believe or he or she's reality is regarding electricity and magnetism. Matt will add, in the past, the outer ring of reality had to take a good amount of time to work over the reality creators. It had to plant news articles, and the newspaper took a whole day to print, and then word had to spread. It took a long time. Frank says, now we're at the time of instant media, of course. Add to that computer-altered video and sound and AI, and nobody can tell which image is real or which video is real. Add to that high-definition pictures, and everything looks more real than your eyesight. Bottom line, 99% of all media is now false or corrupted in some way. Okay, we know that. But he's saying here, this is in support of what I'm saying, even if it's real, it's fake. So I'm going to interpret the rest of what Frank's saying here. So what would you, or what would any real creative being, spiritual being here, go out and create without the not milk, without the outer ring of reality, without media, without the screen, without Hollywood and governments? What would you create? The world would look so much different, of course. So even if it's real, it's fake things, there are supposedly real things that happen in society. And if you were at the bank robbery really happened, right? Because you were there, and shots were being fired, and money was really being taken. And you were in the middle of it. It was real. And you know what I would say? And I just had this conversation with Brenton. It's still fake, because what's happening is so influenced. The events are so influenced, and the people are so influenced by the outer ring that they're basically acting out what the outer ring of reality or what the screen wants. These elements, thousands and tens of thousands of elements in society and culture, are there because the creative being was influenced by the outer ring. It wouldn't exist naturally on its own if just real creator beings were here. That most people are in some sort of mind control on the ship of fools. And they're creating a reality of what the outer ring wants. Even if it's real, right? But it's fake because it's not coming from the genuine source. It's not coming from the genuine well or cistern. It's coming from the outer ring. Now, I've used the even if it's real, it's fake mantra mostly about events on the news that seem absurd. Let's just say some types of mall events and some types of school events have absurd elements that just, maybe not as bad as maybe not as bad as morons like that, but they have elements where the first grade truther just yells fake, and things are changing. I mean, it's not as simple as that anymore. Reality, I've said many times, is placing fake events inside what you would call a real event if you were in the middle of it, simply to get our attention. So the first grade truther yells fake. Let me repeat that if you don't remember me talking about that in detail a month or two ago. Reality in terms of events and as they're presented is putting in false or ridiculous elements, fake elements, things to get our attention, Robbie Bibby Bobbies, whatever it may be. I'm not saying that the Captain Hook movie was real. There are certain things that are completely fake. Okay, I'm not saying they're all real. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. Reality has found a way to put ridiculous fake elements inside real events. And the result is many of us interpret the entire thing as fake. We had misconstrued the first rule of truth, remember? But much more of it is real than you would think if you're in the middle of it. I've seen many times ridiculous fake elements put into real events. If you were in the middle of it, you'd say that person was really harmed. That person was really shot by a gun. I was there, someone might say, in the middle of it. Okay, here's a different type of example, completely different in terms of understanding. Even if it's real, it's fake. We were talking yesterday, Brenton and I, and he was struggling with what I mean by it, and I wasn't doing a good job explaining it. Here's a totally different type of example, but there's so many different applications of it. hip hop culture, gangster rap culture. Snoop Dogg, murder was the case that they gave me. Murder was the case that they gave me. That's it. Matt, you was that pretty good? All the, my gat, man, put my gat in his mouth, my gat, my gun, and Ice Cube didn't even have to use my AK. It was a good day. All this gangster. And what's so funny? Maybe some of them are real gangsters. I mean, I wouldn't think that Snoop went to the same private school that Obama did, but most of them, like, look at the pictures of Dr. Dre in his New Edition outfit type. I mean, they're false. Most of these gangster rappers, many of them are false. Anyway, that's a whole different video. So would you say that gangster rap and certain type of hip hop culture, Pants on the Ground, Public Enemy, I don't want to get on Public Enemy. I like Chuck D and I like Flava Flav. Let's just say NWA. That did it create a culture in Los Angeles and the big cities that led to violence? Of course it did. Of course it did. So, see, here we go. Has there ever been anybody harmed by gangs or gang culture in big cities? Yeah, tens of thousands of people have been murdered or harmed, or that the whole culture was created by Not Milk. So that's just a different type of example of, even if it's real, it's fake. The violence is real, but where did it come from? It came from a fake source. It came from the outer ring of reality. Nothing natural or organic happened to create inner city gang culture, hip hop culture, trying to emulate what's said in these gangster rap albums, etc. I know, the old stuff, nothing but a G thing or whatever. I am kind of out of touch of what it's all about now, but you understand what I'm saying. So it came from the Not Milk. Real things happen. That's still, even if it's real, it's fake. It came from a fake source. That's not the greatest example, but it's one of thousands of examples. Frank continues to write, people stopped looking around. They're getting, Matt adds, they're getting their reality exclusively from Not Milk sources. People, and these are still, they have the same creative powers that they've always been, but they're completely slaves to what the Not Milk wants and the culture it's trying to create. People stopped looking around. They stopped creating. So when he says, I write, Frank says, I write that I make it all. I write that I make my reality. I create everything. I appear crazy to everybody around me, of course, or any normie, because I'm outside their reality. Matt adds, these people have no idea what I'm talking about because they're looking exclusively to Not Milk to guide them to create their reality. They are unable or incapable of doing it themselves as of 2025, they probably for 100 years, but they don't recognize, though, it all comes from them. A video popped up in front of me the other day that I watched maybe 10 minutes of from Video Advice. Several million subscribers, tries to be a little bit of like a conspiracy channel and nothing's real. It's just, of course, it's a bunch of nonsense, but it was like clickbait. It got my attention. Scientist from CERN exposes this video is just one or two back on Video Advice. I'm not saying you watch it. I'm saying it's a waste of time. CERN scientist exposes it all, or nothing. We live in an illusion. Nothing is real. Well, yeah, Pootie Tang Award, but let me click on it. And the CERN scientist is like, well, we can only take in what our senses tell us, and there's probably nothing at all out there. It's all coming from inside. And like, what? Pootie Tang Award. Wait, they're passing this off as breaking news. It's not like, well, Matt, yeah, we've been talking about it, Matt, for years. Not we. Hermes thrice great with his girlfriend. Hermes thrice majestic with his girlfriend. 4,000 years ago, the damn Kabbalion shit. All is mind. It's pretty simple. I'm not, the Kabbalion, it's got some great principles. If some dude on a rock 4,000 years ago said, this shit ain't real, all is mind, and came up with that thousands of years ago, I don't care who you think Hermes thrice great with his girlfriend is. That's pretty damn good. All is mind. And the CERN scientist, breaking news. Breaking news? So people are just finally starting to just not accept it, just dabble in it a little bit. That there's nothing out there at all. It's all created from us, creator beings. How many of us there are here? So a certain type of unpopular truth that goes against scientific mainstream, that creator beings create everything all is mind and there's nothing physical out there. A certain brand of unpopular truth that isn't accepted by the masses has been around for thousands and thousands of years. That's one possibility. Of course, I'm keeping on the table that it's all stuffed Lenins and Humpty Dumptys. These are truths that seem like they come from an origin source of history, but they're just carried through time. Or maybe there was no history back beyond 500 years, and this is just still artificially carried. These truths are carried through time as Humpty Dumptys and stuffed Lenins, just like if a tree falls in the woods and there's nobody there, doesn't make a sound. I mean, this is one of the biggest Humpty Dumptys of all time. Nobody cared to have a quantum physics conversation when they say the origin of this little parable came about in 1820. It's ridiculous. It's all stuffed Lenins and Humpty Dumptys. So it doesn't really matter. The truth is still trying to get out in 2025. We know it. There's no physical world out there, or at least whatever you could argue back and forth, it doesn't exist without us, without real creative beings influencing it, etc. So this is not even worth talking about anymore. Of course, it just doesn't exist, everything out there, without us, no matter how much of a conversation you want to have or debate as to how physical it is. So it doesn't matter whether there was a guy sitting on a rock smoking a pipe, thinking about the great things he did with his girlfriend for 3 times, or it's all BS, all carried through time as Humpty Dumpty's legend and lore, because the truths of certain things about reality and about ourselves have to be carried artificially through time. It doesn't matter whether Hermes was real or not. The truth is the truth, and of course, the Knot-Milk, the outer ring of reality, and its minions, in this case, scientists trying to do the best they can and going home to their wives at the University of Indiana, and husbands, sorry, they're not all just men. Sorry, there it is, Matt. There's the true nature, the true nature of you coming out again. Sorry. Going home to their wives, husbands, they, thems, whatever you insert. I'm going to pause, insert your pronoun here. Okay. It doesn't matter because they're the minions of Knot-Milk. They're the scientific explanation of everything in this reality is false, in my opinion, and is pushing the false reality of Knot-Milk. Look, is there you could say a certain brand of medicine or the discovery of penicillin is a scientific discovery and that helped people? Okay, let's not go too far. You know what I mean? Cosmologists and astronomers and all those branches and brands of science are here only to propagate the trick. They're collecting up data from a false source, but we'll leave that for another video. It's one of my favorite things of all time to talk about, how these scientists are completely tricked and they think they're the smartest group of people. Can you believe that? They collect up data from false source outside of themselves, mostly influenced by Knot-Milk, thinking it's real empirical data coming from a reality that really exists outside themselves. I mean, these scientists, Frank just laughs. Frank laughs himself to sleep every night thinking about the scientists performing experiments, thinking the reality outside is completely separate from themselves. I mean, and these are the people making big money that are going to go to the cocktail party tonight. It's Saturday night tonight. They're going to go to the cocktail party with little pigs in blankets and $20 martinis and get whacked off in the coat closet. I just got to go after this, got to go down and watch 5 hours of the British Open, the damn golf tournament, because I got nothing else to do. Here Frank writes, can you make the fake world follow you? Can you make the fake world follow you? So you know how the funny numbers keep showing up and synchronicities and coincidences and people keep saying, I keep saying the 1111 over and over again, things like that. So could you roll a dice in the morning and see whatever number it is and then look for your numbers and see how they get installed throughout the day? Now, of course, Frank believes that in coincidences and synchronicities and how the 33 pops up unnaturally and reality shows us certain things using numbers. Of course, Frank believes in all this, but he's saying, can you make the fake reality follow you? And this gets, to me, he didn't write this, but it's the people that jump out of bed in the morning and I'm going to go create my reality. And you know what? I'll never truly be there. I believe as creators, we have tremendous influence. I'll give you some examples of things that just happened to me a few days ago. But I don't need to be there. You know, again, I want to learn the lessons that this tiny little short blink of a life provides, and I want to get out. Even if there was a secret manual that would show me exactly how I can create my own reality, or some guru came before me, I'll tell you exactly what. I don't care. Okay, I want to have a nice, comfortable life. I don't want to starve. I don't want to be in pain. But I don't really, in terms of the way that some of these people say it, and I don't get on them. If you're one of these people that can jump out of bed and says, I'm going to create my reality today, that's wonderful. I wish I could be more like that. I just don't care. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Why not take advantage of every tool you have at your disposal? It's just, I don't care. Am I going to be like Cypher? And I don't remember, I want to go back in the Matrix and I don't remember nothing. And I want to be rich, and tell me dresses like a gigolo. I don't care. But, I can have positive thoughts, and I know that has an influence. But then you get into things like the lung clot or whatever. Well, how did that happen? I mean, was I being negative? Not that I'm aware of, so is it, obviously we're never going to have 100% control over the reality outside. That's not really outside. No matter how much you can convince yourself you're going to go create your reality. I'm going to create a blood clot today and go to the emergency room. How did that happen? And some people would try to explain, well, Matt, you had a series of negative thoughts. Sometimes shit just happens. It's okay. We know the reality wouldn't exist without us, but we're not these masters of reality creation where I can just form mountains. We're low beings here. It's okay. It's okay. I don't strive to be more than what this reality is supposed to be for me. Matt, it's really negative, and you have bad thoughts every morning. You just accept being a low being and accept this is supposed to be a low experience. I do. So, I'm in my 50s, and there's not that much time left. It goes like that. We're already, from the perspective of anything out of here, we're already dead. All of us are already dead. It goes like that. It'll be over. So what's the point to me? So again, Frank wrote, can you make the fake world and the fake reality follow you? And that's kind of the concept. I'm not sure we ever finished the book. What the bleep do we know? But a big part of that book is quotes from Dr. Joe Dispenza and other upbeat people about creating your own reality. And that's great. If some people are very skilled at it, I'm sure. Even though we're low beings here, they get good at certain things. I just don't care. I want to experience it. I want to wonder in it and wow, isn't this incredible, and be in it. But I don't really care about creating anything. I want to. I don't want to be in pain, and I don't want to go to bed hungry. And I want my stove tests in the backyard to come out successfully without smoke. Other than that, I don't give a shit. The low reality in even the Not Milk, its minions, and its low players are here for a reason. And we're all learning tremendous lessons from if you go through your whole life and you don't create very much, you just kind of live in it and experience it. That's okay. From your perspective, your life path, it's meant to be experienced. Even the pain, the trauma, the loss, whatever. Counselor, you're going to learn about loss. Cape Counselor, could that be you, Counselor? Cape Fear, learning about loss, pain. I'm here to move through it and experience it. In many cases, wonder and its fascination in it. In terms of me trying to change a bunch of stuff, no, it's like I'm just on the damn conveyor belt going through it. And when I get out the other side, I'll say, thanks a lot. I'm not coming back. I want to move through it, and it's an incredible experience. I don't let someone else create it. I don't give a shit. The last 2 pages of Frank's letter talks about electricity, and we talk about the weaponization of the internet, but the Not Milk and the outer ring of reality really didn't start to gain true power until the invention of electricity. Here it says, is all electronic media subject to alteration? Again, with the creation of the internet, everybody here that does truth research just saw how blatantly the internet can affect the masses and the mind control and the ship of fools, complete weaponization. I mean, it just exposed itself. It didn't even try to hide. The next phase of that, moving the human towards the digital world and the digital environment and stepping into that, is the AI and the virtual environments. And people talk about brain chip and whatever's coming down the road, they have it all planned out, that what they have planned for the human, and it's always about removing one from their spiritual self. That's, if anybody's new here, all it cares about Not Milk is getting you to not really understand who you really are. It's one sentence. everything it does is about removing you from your spiritual self or your understanding that that aspect of yourself exists. It's one sentence. That's why the whole reality, from my perspective, is a half page. But Frank says, well, think what happened before that. We all owe electricity. Isn't it wonderful? We plug our refrigerator in, and each phase of what the not milk does is a tool that it develops at the outer ring of reality that it then offers like a carpetbagger or a corrupt salesperson to your heart-based reality bubble. It reaches its hand in. Remember from the concentric rings diagram. We have this thing called electricity, and we're going to use our minions like the false BS stories around Tesla and this BS crap around Edison and the conflict between Edison and Tesla and the DC and the AC and all that bullcrap history. Are there truthers here that believe that Tesla was the good guy working for us? Really? You have a lot to learn. If these stories come from the screen, that's what they are, stories. And even guilty with the stories. That's from, I was going to say old school. That's from Step Brothers. Sorry. There's no original thoughts that come from, everything can be traced back to a movie, even the reality conversations. There's nothing original. Guilty with the stories. Tesla versus Edison. There's truthers here listening to this. Come on, admit it. They know. Admit it. You believed in that, right? That Tesla's the good guy. Oh, then the not gives itself away. Then Trump's uncle was involved in taking the Tesla stuff. They're such good people. They just waited until the official story is they just waited until Tesla died. Then they got in and installed the stuff. They would respect property rights and respect not taking it when he was alive. Come on. What a joke all these stories are. So Frank's saying, electricity, we just take it for granted. It's a wonderful thing. No, that was one of the first things, at least in the modern era, that it reached in and as a carpetbagger and offered you, and its corrupt sales pitch to take, because then it could have more of its ammunition and more of its tactics and tricks on the back of electricity, and it all came on the back of electricity. So how many things can we go back in the past that were introduced and accepted by the masses as just wonderful innovations for us? It's so wonderful that the washing machine just spins it around. I don't have to take it out to the rock and with the big bar of lye soap and the damn washboard. And potentially all of its innovations have been to create a culture that is ready to receive then the not milk's big guns, the big dehumanization weapons to finally completely remove the human from their spiritual self via the next phases of the digital world. Oh, isn't this wonderful? Electricity, and the internet, and it was wonderful the first few years, and it's all beautiful until you see what the not milk is really up to. It is a worthy adversary, folks, and an evil genius. We didn't come here to play against no bad news bears bullshit team. We came to play a real adversary. A few of us can see through it. A few of us are not affected by the tricks, are not affected by its parcel tongue and its spells in Latin and movies and whatever else it presents to the people to put them on the ship of fools and its mind control. Few of us can see through it. I would just say the rest of the people are not ready. Jeth in his book talks about they're not. Jeth says they're not NPCs. He doesn't say it this directly. He's much more eloquent in his writing, but I'm interpreting. Stop calling them NPCs. It's just those that are here to experience being fooled. And Tony would say the same thing. He said most people are here to be fooled. That's what they came here to experience. And some people can't understand that. Why would they come here to be fooled? And Tony would say, well, that serves their higher self, just like you're waking up. That's serving your higher self. Jeff's saying they're not NPCs. They're just here they're serving a role in actually being fooled. Just like the minions and the not milk and all of its creeps fulfill a role that's necessary for our spiritual growth, the blind, Jeth would say, the blind people around us are actually assisting us in fulfilling a role by being so blind, because we weigh where we are and our strives and how far we're going and how advanced we're becoming by their metric, by their baseline being asleep. That's how we gauge ourselves to a degree. Look at my Aunt Ginny and my uncle at the they were talking about politics at the Thanksgiving table again. How could they possibly be talking about the vote? When are these people going to learn something? That's our benchmark for our own metrics for winning. Let me read you this short segment from one of Frank's letters. It gives you a real insight as to where Frank's coming from, his completely unique perspective on everything. That's why it always leads me into discussion places that I don't expect to go just from what he's written here. He says, I used to take long drives. Pressed for reaching a picked destination in badly calculated time frames, too short on hours, I would drive continuously for 2 or 3 days, stopping just for quick naps, sodas, gas, vending machine snacks, etc. It hit me that I felt like I was on the nose of a missile, which was the car, having been shot down the road through the night and at times through the fog. I began to view the windshield as a TV set tube with pictures flying by me. This was my first time thinking that I might not be moving at all, but the scenery around me is more like a TV show. It just made it look like I was moving down the road. It was actually moving by me. Matt's adding, if I create everything myself. And today for me, I see my action and vision that way. Also expanding that consideration to all perceptions, it leads me to my statement, I create it all. All the physical is of my creation. All that I perceive is of my creation. And he's saying, not that I expand or create what you see, Matt, out of your eyes. Again, Frank and I would need to discuss sometimes how the different creative realities come together. And that is one of the biggest, or will ultimately remain the biggest mystery of this reality. If we're all individual creators, why are there so many shared elements? And let me take that back for a second or completely reword that. Most people would say there aren't so many shared elements, Matt. People around us would say, well, we all share the same reality. Everything's exactly the same. Who was the first president of the United States? We'll all say the same. Everybody thinks everything is the same for all of us. So you can almost come in with the rule of opposites and apply the rule of opposites that says, if this reality is out to get everybody thinking that the world is out there and you're just in it, then the rule of opposites confirms what Frank is saying. Everything is opposite. That's important here. Then there is no reality out there at all. It all comes from you. If the reality, even if you believe that, wants everybody to believe that all these elements, millions and billions of elements, of course, are shared, then it's just the opposite. They may not be as shared as it seems. If everybody shares the same elements in their reality, that is an absolute staple in getting the reality to get everybody to believe that they're just a small part in it and they have no aspect or role in creating it. Right there is its go-to argument. Say, what color is an apple? Red. Who won the Super Bowl last year? The Eagles. Who was the first person on the moon? Really? Next question. Who was supposedly the Roman emperor that was stabbed 23 times? Julius Caesar? I mean, yeah, we all share that. So you going to tell me, oh, you reality creator idiots up here, you going to tell me you create your own reality when everybody shares the same elements? Oh, that makes sense. What's more, Occam's razor? What's more likely that you don't create jack shit and the elements are coming from a reality that's out there and objective? That's why everybody has the same answers to these questions. But you make yourself self-grandized, self-important. You create it all. See, the rule of opposites, it seems like that would be impossible. Yeah, we would all say, who won the Super Bowl last year? The Philadelphia Eagles. That's shared in everybody's reality. Well, then how did I create it? Well, you create your own reality. That's screen reality. There's a difference. The outer ring versus your personal reality bubble. I'm not creating screen reality. I'm not creating what is she still on the succubus on the CBS Evening News? Whatever she's spouting off about, I'm not creating that. I don't want to create that. That's screen reality. There's a difference. Let me go back to the letter here. Here Frank writes, regarding false reality, I'm thinking it's been going on since whatever starting point you care to select. Yeah, I mean, we talk about not milk or whatever. It's part of the original design of this reality. Of course, it's an essential player here. The lies of this place is really why it was created, why we need to move through it and overcome it. No doubt, it's been here forever, whatever you call not milk. Society seems obsessed in promoting false narratives. Frank, you want a Pootie Tang Award? Frank, you're too high level to get a Pootie. Society seems... Frank's probably right. Matt, I know you're going to read this to people at all levels. And society seems obsessed in promoting false narratives. Pootie Tang Award, Frank, that's all it does. I think that this obsession may come from the being in an effort to add lies that will continue the game. So the obsession of society and the real beings in it, Frank's saying, come from us, come from most people. Frank would say most people in the ship of fools are not NPCs. They're real spiritual beings just like you and me that are choosing, for whatever reason, to be fooled or not ready to wake up, have a lot more to do, have to go through one lifetime or thousands of lifetimes being fooled so that the wake-up process is more meaningful. If we just woke up after being fooled for 10 minutes, would it be as big of a deal as it is for us now? It's such a big deal for us now because we may have been through it 5 times or 5 million times being fooled. It's a big deal for us, not just because we went through it in our teens and 20s and 30s. We could have been through it for a long, long time. So I think that this obsession may come from the being, it's ourselves, in an effort to add lies that will continue the game. So he's saying the not milk and it can't do it on its own. It can't do anything on its own. In the not milk and all the falsities and whatever it presents from the screen and all its lies and fake events, that's fed, Frank would say, fed by real beings. So for them, at least, for a percentage of us, the game needs to continue. This whole game and this whole reality is based on lies. Truth undoes itself and dissolves everything. For the game, Frank's saying, for the game to continue, somebody's got to keep up the lies. And do the people around you, your friends and family, help support the lies? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You better believe they help support the lies. So then this is just one more thing that not milk can't truly do on its own. Here Frank writes, the stupider it is, the more it will be believed. Yeah, they understood that a long time ago. The stupider, combined with endless sensationalism, endless news cycles, MH370. And anyway, an inspection of our education, our books, science, etc., endlessly shows few truths. As kids, we believe and accept this stuff as truth. Countless examples of how getting a job goes, how to prosper, how to act socially, the purpose and function of law, the purpose and function of the police and government, all lies. Everything is lies. Everything is the opposite of what's presented. It all turns out to be false. Factually, all items from the top of this page, what he's listed here, are false. Yeah, everything from the outer ring. Here Frank writes, the exchange of ideas today is almost instant. And it's not exactly what Frank wrote here, but again, a lot of what I get out of this is how it helps me develop my own thoughts, what he presents in a different way, much different way than how I would think about it, is again, the yin and yang is always at work here. The not milk has to give something up. In terms of getting the majority on the ship of fools and the complete weaponization of the internet and the news cycles that happen instantly and everybody believes it, it had to give something up. There's always a yin and a yang. The back end, in terms of what Frank wrote here, the exchange of ideas or this news cycle is almost instant, is it will wake up a lot of people in the process. As it goes along, people will wake up. It will lose more people in this era than it ever has lost. But at the same time, when it loses us, it has a much stronger hold or grasp on those on the ship of fools. It's almost always zero-sum or yin and yang. The ship of fools, how fooled people are, we can't even fathom. We just can't understand how our family falls for the same voting cycle. And it's unfathomable to us how they keep falling for the same tricks. So they're completely gone. Who knows how many more can wake up because it's already exposed itself. But because of what it did, it led to our wake up. It led to who knows how many millions are like us. The reality demanded that if it's going to do this over here, it has to give something back over here. And to our benefit. That's why we would not go back. We wouldn't give it up. Most of us would never go back to the Matrix. To our benefit, this reality has offered us these truths, and we've benefited from going through this process tremendously. This is one reason why this hijacked thing from the first grade truther has always really bugged me. I mean, and I haven't changed my position on it one bit. If you're hijacked, you haven't heard me do that for a while. Sorry, it's a little obnoxious. They still yell hijacked. The reality was not meant to be taken over by this evil thing, and there was not meant to be suffering in giant jars of lube under palm tree. This drives me crazy. Because it's so clear, the graduate level truther, the fifth grade truther at this point can see that the lies need to be here in this place for the growth process, the deception to come through it, to experience it, to believe it for many decades, then to come out of it is a necessary growth process. The asshole element here, the plumber's ass crack, the minions, the Alec Baldwins of the world, the Stephen Hawkings, they all, everybody that promotes the false science and this false notion, it all has to be here. Oh my gosh, is he talking about the reality as a learning experience? Like, oh no, I'm triggered again. Yes, of course it's a learning experience. What is wrong with people? It's not a learning experience. And come on. It's just all about suffering, and it was hijacked. First grade, that perception is. In the last section, Frank was talking about the real spiritual beings here, of course, helping themselves to perpetuate the lie. Of course, the population supports not milk, as they support the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, and they support what the news presents and the notions that mask up or whatever it may be. They, of course, the masses and the real beings support the not milk agendas, and the lies support the lies. But that's part of the process. Again, it can't do much on its own. It really can't. But Frank was talking about to perpetuate the reality. Many real beings support the lies, because whether it be a subconscious or unconscious understanding, and there's no reality here if there's no adversary and there's no lies, and they want it to perpetuate. They're not ready to get out of it. They want it to continue. So they will help perpetuate the lies. They're just not ready to completely leave it all behind, as many of us or most of us listening are. So to a few very smart people that I've interacted with, the role of the minion, the creep, the Alec Baldwin, the Santa Claus Schwab, the Melvin, the Bezos of the Belinda and Melvin P. Gates Foundation. They're just simply role players, like somebody, let's say there was a fifth grade class that going to perform Romeo and Juliet. So who wants to play Benvolio? Me. Who wants to play Romeo? Me. Basically, some would say that it's a spiritual being, Melvin, it's lesser than you. It's just chosen, or it could be game addicted, and it's afraid to do the Tommy, deaf, dumb, and blind thing. It's afraid to do the hardcore reality experience that we're doing, but it's a real spiritual being. I don't want to admit Melvin is as real as you and me. I don't want to admit that at all. I say that every time. I don't like believing that Melvin is the same as us, but it just chose this role because it's easy. What do I have to do? I'm going to play Benvolio. Well, we're going to be a multi-billionaire, and you're going to drive Ferraris, and you're going to have never be hungry, and you're going to see pretty amazing things, and people will bow down before you and respect you and think you actually created the DOS prompt and think you actually created Windows, and they're going to think you're a big businessman and respect a intelligence that doesn't exist. So everywhere I go, people will love me, and I'll be rich, and I want to be rich. And I don't remember nothing. That's what they chose. That's an easy role. That's playing it safe. How did Tony put it? Game addicted, playing it safe. And if they got whacked off a few times in the coat closet during these fancy parties, then they think that's pretty good. And they say, I want to keep doing this. I want to keep playing this role as a sequential incarnation, as a minion. But you're not getting anywhere. Well, that's okay. I want to play this role a couple thousand years. I like being Caesar. Or, that's fine. We're like maybe older souls say, well, how many times, can you have the sex act on the back of the Magenta speedboat? It doesn't do anything for me anymore, for you and me. We want to move on. We want to be done with this reality. We've done enough. We've complete confidence going into the moment of death. This Melvin, whatever, they're just game addicted. It's enjoyable. It's still enjoyable to them, but they get jaded. That's why David Bowie goes off with Mick Jagger into the closet together, and they get jaded to the same old stinky stuff, and it's this, the same old pleasures, and that's why it always has to get perverted and always has to get kind of sick, because they've done it so often that, but they're like, well, why don't you just graduate and do what these guys are doing? Go into the reality, Tommy, not having any understanding of who you are spiritually, no understanding of your higher self, no understanding what the reality's for, and they're like, I don't like, I'm afraid. They're, according to Tony and others, I'm afraid to do that. They're afraid to take the leap. Of course, don't get mad at me, Not Milk. This is what some very smart people have told me, and I'm expressing that to the people listening to me. Don't get upset at me, Not Milk. They say they're afraid to take the leap. What's a more hardcore reality? A Bezos who just got his wedding. Who do you mean? Pedro Sanchez. He just married. And he just got his. When he crossed 300 billion, something. I mean, is it that? It's almost 300 billion. What's a more hardcore reality? What that entity is doing, or what we're doing? Yeah, pretty simple to see. Well, Matt, Steve Jobs, maybe they're still in the body. They have to be in this body. I don't think it's a paper mache body, and that might be, whatever medical care they have access to, hundreds of things that they don't tell us about or give us, there's certain things maybe that can't be cured. And Steve Jobs was like, okay, fine. He's just going to recycle back into another body. He knows his role will come forth. That's why they're so interested perhaps in bloodlines, that hidden hand, secret control or whatever. That's why the bloodlines, they come into their role in this reality, knowing what they're supposed to do. The hidden hand thinks that I'm more superior than you people. That, who knows how fooled they are, these minions. The hidden hand guy or girl said, I'm here to manage this reality for you peons, like the Henry Kissinger approach. And we're sixth density beings, and we're Lucifer. And I'm saying what Tony and others are saying. These minions or bloodlines or whatever are lower than us. Rule of opposites. If they appear to be on top here, are they on top where it matters? No, the rule of opposites has never been broken. So I'm sorry, I'm not really convinced you're a sixth density being and you're twice as high as me and all this, you're Lucifer and all this stuff. You appear to be high here. That means per the rule of opposites. And until it's broken, I'm going to always apply it. Then you're probably lower than the people that come in here and suffer and don't know who they are. Rule of opposites, Melvin and Bezos. Well, I read a few more pages. I looked over a few pages I had saved. And if this perhaps is Frank's last package that I make a video out of, let me summarize. Frank's message is very simple. It's number one, we create everything. You can interpret that as you like. You're responsible for basically everything. If you are blaming dark forces or whatever, you are so lost, according to Frank. Now, we can debate Frank in terms of the outer ring and what's presented by the succubus on the CBS Evening News. And do we create all that? In some way, real beings do help perpetuate the lies, of course. But do we, those breaking free from the ship of fools, we could debate that, the exact definition of we create everything, okay, is open for interpretation. That's in general what Frank believes. And the purpose of all of this, according to Frank, is, I think you would agree, we learn and we evolve, and he's not triggered by me saying it's a learning experience or a school, but more important to Frank is to, in this hellish environment, which can be very difficult, to continue to create and / continue to have fun, okay, or these elements go hand in hand. Frank creates with his hands when he's not thinking about these big topics. He builds things and he creates all sorts of things with his hands, and it's very rigorous physical work. And in letters, he said, it's interesting, Matt, how you also have taken to the physical work, and your outlet, like mine, is to go stack thousands of pounds of bricks and to unstack and to stack again and unstack. I've done hundreds and hundreds of times. There's something that the real spiritual being needs from a degree of physical work. But if Frank said, if you had 30 seconds on an elevator with Frank, he'd say, amongst all this hell, you better find a way to create and have fun. Seek out the heaven. And if you're not, make sure, and you're awake to all the lies, make sure you get out of here and you go play another game somewhere. As a timeless spiritual being, it's not for you. the challenge, and it's to people like Frank, this is so much fun, and around all this hell and all the negativity, to continue to create / have fun. And you can't have fun without creating. And can you truly create without having fun? Of course, they go hand in hand. But, we can keep talking about this, but the best way to understand is just to see the opposite approach from these first grade truthers. Oh, there's something evil here. We're screwed. It's the end of the world. It's dark. We're victims. Of course. I mean, you wouldn't, if you thought you were a victim of the negative here, you wouldn't be at a channel like this. If you see it as a lower role player, like a snake that comes out from under a rock, and you just treat it like that, it's playing its role, and it's good at it. It's absolutely very, very good at its role. And I think, I think if I had these minions, I think they're mostly having fun. I really do. Misery loves company, and they're miserable. I think a lot of people like to say that. In terms of Tony called them sequential incarnations, I think they like their role, most of them. I can't speak for all. I can't speak for any of them. There's maybe, when they start having to do the humiliations, like, the Alec Baldwin humiliation and the ridiculous stuff associated with what do you call his daughter? A dirty little pig or something, or it's just something like that. I have to refer to Bill's poster, or what happened on the set of Rust. Oh, sure, yeah. See, those humiliations might like graduate levels of their initiation. I love that word, initiation. Oh, what a terrible, I can't stand that. But they might need to see the minion known as Alec Baldwin may need to go through all these humiliations to get to the top where, and it's not the top of what we could see as like Bezos. And hey, Bezos, by the way, congratulations on your wedding, and Miss Sanchez, and congratulations on the enormity of your success. I stole that from one of the Oceans movies. I think it was Ocean's 13. Somebody at a party congratulated Al Pacino. Bezos, congratulations on the enormity of your success. To get to that level, and of course, there's those in the shadows that you never see, that from their perspective, that have more fun here than even the ones you can see. Maybe they want to get there, and they have to go through the humiliations. Maybe Will Smith chose that. He says, I want to be where Bezos is someday, or one of the ones in the shadow. Well, then you got to go up there and fake slap Chris Rock. Oh, I don't want to do that. You got to Alec Baldwin. The more humiliations you can get in here, maybe the higher up in the next lifetime, when they come back and they can come back for a David or Nelson Rockefeller lifetime. They can come back. Matt, it's breaking down. It's really not breaking down. This is actually very true, in my opinion. It sounds ridiculous, which is typically what happens at the 50-minute mark in my videos. To me, the humiliations on the lower level are all over the place, because these, and I think maybe Will Smith chose this route. They then want to come back when they go into another body. It's not breaking down. This is what happens, according to Tony and many people. They're game addicted. They'll stay at this level where they'll be the Caesars of this place. They'll control this place. They're game addicted. They don't want to take the plunge that we're taking. But this is a way to describe why there's so many humiliations for the lower level minions, because several lifetimes later it could pay dividends. That's what they have to go through. Just like you hear these stories about, other humiliations in societies, or the Kevin Bacon bent over in Animal House. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another? We now pledge the bond of obedience in the Omega House. Greg Marmalards said that to Kevin Bacon. That's basically why there's so many humiliations. So, Matt, let me get this straight. They're choosing just to go higher up the pecking order of the minions and become greater sequential incarnations, and still avoiding what we're doing? Yeah. When it was probably presented with Will Smith, you can do this, and eventually you'll have to come back and you'll lose it all, and there'll be another lifetimes where you can't sing, you can't dance, you'll just bake bread somewhere down in that bread oven where Nicolas Cage's character in Moonstruck, Ronnie Camilleri, he's a troubled man, and I love him, Ronnie Camilleri. They're going to bake bread with Ronnie Camilleri. Somebody, the higher self, told Will Smith, and Will Smith said, hell no. I want to continue to play the part of, I want to be a greater minion. I want to be like Bezos someday, but there's going to be humiliations. I don't care. I'll put up with humiliations. After humiliation, I go back to my $4 million home or whatever. That's the choice that these spiritual beings, in my opinion, are making. Where we might have been on through all of it. Who knows in the equivalent of what we would understand thousands or tens of thousands of years ago. At some point, and I think Tony would agree with this and others, that at some point we may have been through that. We may have played that role. We're greater beings. We said, I've had it with this. I want to, as a timeless being, I need to, for my whole spiritual whole, I need to do here what I need to do, the hardcore, the testimony that Jill put out. I need to go through the hardcore pipe-hitting reality, the toughest aspects. And this is what I need to do here to get to where I need to be and bring it on, the hardcore pipe-hitting lows of this place. What Josh has been through, and it's not, you play it safe here. You get whacked off in a coat closet, and that can be fun. And then you can go get your Wawa subs or whatever. But it's not to really get out the other side. You need to. It's hardcore here, and you need to have a tough ass reality, a tough experience, and that's what most of us listening are going through now. It's tough on people share their emails with me and their personal experiences. And it's there's some people that seem they have a wonderful situation, but it's not like that for most people listening here. And that's not to say that you have to have the lowest of the low experience and the suffering to get out the other side. I don't know. I'm just saying in general, our experience here is the opposite of at least what it appears Melvin and Bezo are going through, and the playing it safe spiritual entity here known as the sequential. So we're as Tony called, we're the simultaneous incarnation, a much higher spiritual evolution than these creeps and these minions. And you think you're look at Santa Claus Schwab and some of these Lady Gaga. You think we're all on the same level? It's okay to say you're a little superior. You think they'll eventually get to where you are. But look at Lady Gaga. Look at Chris Rock. Look at Spike Lee. Some of these. You think we're on the same level as them? Maybe they have all the money and the fame, but we're not on the same. You can feel it. I mean, it's okay. It sounds arrogant. We're superior. We came in here to take the plunge, to not know ourselves, to struggle, to be confused, and for much of our lives depressed and low. And we came in here to have the whole hardcore reality served up, not to play it safe. Thanks for listening.